On today's show, Angus Crookshank is back on a one-year contract.
And we continue our 2024 NHL Draft Prospect Profiles with two guys, Ross, that may have the best hands in the draft. One of them a forward and one of them a defenseman.
And one of them is in my top 10. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory, while Brandon Piller is up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That's music, concerts, sports, theater. Go to Game Time and use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central. And please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. We are also free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Today is Thursday, June 13th, and Pilsy, a tidy order of business for the Ottawa Senators re-signing Angus Crookshank to a one-year, two-way contract.
Yeah, definitely not a shocking piece of news, Ross, as it really seemed like Crooker impressed the new regime with his time spent in the NHL last season. He did get 13 games with the Ottawa Senators where he had 2 goals, 1 assist, but yet another great season for Crooker in Belleville with 46 points in 50 games. He was among one of the leaders down there. And I think the new regime, the front office, really understands what he can bring to a hockey team. And he didn't look out of place in the NHL. So I think this is a great move for the Sens and obviously a great move for our pal Crooker.
And not only is he a mid to late round pick who had a full year surgery because of that knee issue, was able to come back and ultimately find that groove that he'd been yearning for, just trying to get a consistency to his game. We know he's a hard worker. We know he's going to go into the corners. We know he's going to never give up, depending on whether it's a 6'8" defenseman he's going up against. He's the type of guy that any organization needs these types of players. My big question is, does he start on the Sens opening night lineup? I think it's a tough task because of the veteran mandate from the top that there's going to be guys coming in. So it's hard to project when we haven't even had the offseason yet. But one thing I do know is that nobody in a bottom 6 role is going to be comfortable knowing that a guy with the drive and heart of Angus Crookshank is right behind him, nipping on their heels, wanting their job.
Yeah, and I think that's important, Ross. You want this team, this culture to get back to that hard-nosed, effort-packed mentality here where guys like Parker Kelly, guys like Casty, guys like Ridley Gregg, they're going to need to have someone kind of say, hey, your jobs aren't as comfortable as maybe you thought they were last year. They got to bring some competition into, like, a rising tide raises all boats, right? Like, that's what they need here. They need that tide to rise and set the standard at a higher level. And Crooker's one of those guys that he knows too. He's at a point in his career where he's really got to start to make a statement. And I think he's going to be looking to do so this year.
So with that, it's a piece of business off the plate of Steve Staios. It was announced at the Sens Spring Summit where they had season ticket holders at the CTC. We'll get into that a bit more tomorrow. We're trying to work out a time with Nick Spence, or if you're a season ticket holder, let us know what your thoughts were either in the comments below, or you can reach out on Twitter at Sens Central. Love to know what the feedback is. I saw like jerseys going for $20, some old school names
free
are being
bobbleheads. Yeah.
There were some wild things in storage, and we heard they were all coming from off-site. So these are like out of sight, out of mind type warehouse things. Our guy Cameron sent us a photo of a number 78 Taryn Fizer jersey.
Ooh, okay.
A number 33 3D Mad Sogard jersey, what he wore at the draft. There were some wild finds at this store. But there was also some information. We'll pass that along to you on tomorrow's episode in terms of improvements to the CTC and a whole lot more. But the big news, Angus Crookshank does get his extension. I did, though, chuckle. I sent you this, though, as a promotional tweet. The Senators post, Crookshank extension, meet and greet with Zach McEwen. Feel the excitement, baby. But honestly, jokes aside, it is great that the team is listening to feedback from the people who are spending their hard-earned money to watch a winner. And we haven't seen one in a little while. But Angus Crookshank, great season for him. He was an all-star in the AHL, had 24 goals, 46 points in 50 games with the Belleville Sens, and scored 2 goals in 13 games, added an assist, had 3 points in 13 games with the Sens, including an absolute beauty against the Devils. Thomas Chabot put it on a tee for him. We posted the clip of the goal on Twitter as well. It was an absolute rocket, top shelf. So dealt with an injury there at the end of the season, left the game we went to in Minnesota and didn't play for the rest of the NHL season, but it was great to see him. And we know, like, the pace picks up in the AHL playoffs. You're coming off an injury. So just 1 goal, 1 assist for Crooker in those 7 playoff games, but hopefully he can build off that. Cause look, you can see Crooker as a 24 turning 25 in October type guy, but with the missed season, I almost see him as a year back. And that's the way waivers sees him as well. I know this is a question that's being asked. He needs 1 more season, 57 more NHL games, or 1 more completed season to get waivers. So
Huge.
This is a great asset for the Sens, who can send up and down and have that higher AHL salary. Now, there is an asterisk with that because every player on their entry-level deal has signing bonuses. So if you include signing bonuses, he made $150K last year. It's going to be $120K this year, but at least they weren't bickering over that number all summer long. Like we saw with Sokolov, they just wouldn't give him above 100K in the AHL. So I'm glad that this is like, you know what? Let's get it out of the way before the draft and move from there. Because Pilsy, I've pulled this up. Actually, I've gone into the graphics department here because we posted all of the free agents recently. So now you can see there's still lots of work to do, but Angus Crookshank, highlighted on the right as an RFA, is signed. Now you might see another highlighter on the left, Jiri Smejkal. No surprise here, but he will not be back. Smejkal has signed a contract with, I'm going to mess this up. Pardubice. You should know this. This is Dominic Hasek's hometown.
Okay. Pardubice. Easy.
Now, we thought maybe he'd go back to Sweden, where he played in the SHL the year before. Maybe he'd go back to Liga, where he'd played in Finland, but ultimately he ends up in his home country of Czechia. Wonder if it was just a good fit or if that's the best contract. Whatever the case may be, it's good to see him in a place. I'm assuming he's comfortable. And one of our good friends as well on Twitter, I want to give just Prague Senator. I thought he went by a proper name, but our guy Prague Senator saying that it's one of the richest / most ambitious clubs in the Czech League. So happy trails to Jiri Smejkal. How will you remember the Jiri Smejkal era in Ottawa?
Well, I'll certainly remember the hype. Like Smejkal and Martin Paolo were going to save the Sens. If you ask Sens fans on Twitter before the season started, I think he was visibly disappointed in how much time he spent in the American Hockey League in Belleville. I don't think his aspirations were to be in Belleville as long as he was. However, it's not like they didn't give him a chance. He played 20 games in the NHL as well. 1 goal, 1 assist. I'm glad he got his goal, Ross. That's a good feel-good story. You can kind of put that on your career hat or a notch in your belt. I have an NHL goal, so that's nice for him. And
he waited till the very end, game 82.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a nice story, but ultimately, I don't think it worked out the way the Senators and Jiri Smejkal thought it would.
I don't think so. So happy trails to Jiri Smejkal, and welcome back to Angus Crookshank. Now, Pilsy, before we get to our NHL draft rankings, which is a day away from the top 10, that's just how deep we've divin. I almost said divin. How deep we've divin. We are diving deep into the world of the NHL draft, and we've got 2 very interesting prospects coming up, but the trade rumor mill is outrageous right now. The Senators are in on every single goalie that's name comes up. I was going to put out a tweet saying, hearing reports the Sens are in on, and then list every goalie in the NHL, all of them. I'm talking from Igor Shesterkin all the way to probably Joonas Korpisalo. We're going top to bottom. But all jokes aside, and all goalies aside, there's a high-end talented winger who started where I am in Winnipeg. Patrik Laine seems like he wants a fresh start. We've already seen Martian, everyday Sens. The jersey swaps are outrageous right now. Is there a fit?
I don't think so, Ross. Now, look, I'm not about to deny the talent that Patrik Laine has when he's on his game. I don't think it's that crazy to say he has one of the best shots in the NHL. Like, his shot is absolutely elite. However, it just seems like he hasn't been able to find his way in the NHL. And we do know he is still with the NHL PA Player Assistance Program. So obviously we're wishing him all the best and hoping that he's getting the help he needs and is progressing through his journey here. But I just feel like the Ottawa Senators need to focus on veterans. And it seems like Patrik Laine wants a fresh start. And I feel like if he came to Ottawa, the spotlight would be on him. Like, he's got 2 years at 8.7. Like, 8.7, that's a pretty big ticket. So the Ottawa Senators clearly would have to move a big ticket out to bring him in. And I think there would be a lot of scrutiny and expectations on him. I just don't think it's a fit for him or the Ottawa Senators personally.
Here's how I'll say it. Hell no.
Okay.
This is not a fit. They have so many other needs. I just think that, look, he's going to be a fit in a team that already has an offensive identity, already has a team culture. I just think that he's going to be a piece that could, high risk, high reward, push someone over the top. And look, Johnny Lazarus, friend of the show, he's already kind of, with no information he says, but I see the same way. The complimentary piece he was to Sebastian Aho all the way up, Team Finland, World Juniors, that line with Puljujärvi, Laine, and Aho was ridiculous. But Carolina, they're going to have turnover up front with Gensel likely moving, other pieces. Just feels like a perfect fit for Carolina, the way they play. So I don't know how he's going to fit with Rod Brindamore's style of zone defense or anything like that. But I can see the nibbling around the edges that the Carolina Hurricanes could do with Patrik Laine. But for the Senators, not a fit for me. There's other players even on Columbus that I would target before I would target Patrik Laine, but there is no disrespect to his offensive game. And by all accounts, just being in Winnipeg, like, he left a lasting impression here just by what kind of guy he was off the ice. He was a really likable kid at that point, 18, 19, 20 years old when he was here. But just another name to add on the trade list. It feels like we could see quite a bit of movement around the draft and in free agency. Those conversations will continue on Locked On Senators as we get nearer and nearer to the NHL draft. We are 2 weeks away from our flights to Vegas and 2 weeks and 2 days, or 1 day, from the first round at the Sphere. So for more, make sure you're following at Sens Central on Twitter. We're also in the process of another masterpiece, I'm going to call it. Our special guests have been so good with breaking down these picks in the mock draft. We are 21 picks in, and we're 3.5 hours. And I'm going to go through this entire thing, and we're going to make sure to have it clear, concise, and conversational for you guys as best we can. But next, it's time for our NHL draft rankings. You're listening to Locked On Senators. It's your team. It's every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Look, guys, it's the finals in NBA. It's the Stanley Cup finals in hockey. Baseball is in their regular season. If you want to get sport tickets for the summer, there's only one spot to do it, and it's with Game Time, because Game Time has killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can look through their app and find lots of great deals. Maybe you don't have a plan in place and you're thinking, I'm going to wait and see how the weather is, if I'm going to go to the ballpark or not. Beautiful sunny day. You want to go to the game hours before. Game Time's got you covered with killer last-minute deals. Or maybe you're like, I don't really care where I sit. I just want a good deal. They got flash zone deals as well, where you can pick a zone and they'll find a great deal for you. And you want to know what your seat looks like before you get there, so you know the logo's facing the right way. You don't have a giant pole in your face, or you can't see the third baseline. Don't worry about that. You get panoramic views from your seat with Game Time. Absolutely amazing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
All right, Pilsy. Just want to remind the people to follow the show on social media at Sens Central. We are on Instagram, lockedon.senators. We want to get to 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please be a friend, tell a friend, steal their phone, and head over to YouTube and type in Locked On Sens. Just one note about the graphic I pulled up about the Sens free agents. I told you I reached into my toolbox. I found it quickly on the fly, wanted to get you that information. I may have overlooked that Jacob Larson also signed overseas, so you can add him to the list of players who we bid sayonara adieu to. All right, back to our NHL draft rankings, and coming in at number 13, one of the highest risers in this draft class from the Oshawa Generals, it's Beckett Sennecke.
This player is a lot of fun to watch, Ross. Beckett Sennecke does a lot of really good things, but all you need to do is watch how confident he is going one-on-one up against other teams, and he's able to easily dangle through them. I really like David St. Louis of EP when he did a Let's Watch video on him. I implore everyone to go watch those. But the perfect way to describe it is Beckett Sennecke slips through his defenders like water through cracks. Like that, he just goes right at them and somehow, some way gets the puck through and around them, and then finds a way to retrieve it and then goes on with the play. And when you have a frame the size of that Beckett Sennecke has, you're able to do that. And Ross, we just spoke to Scott Wheeler, and he mentioned Sennecke had a big growth spurt that he's still trying to work on and figure out. Once he's able to kind of adjust to that new size that he has, I think he's going to be a really exciting prospect. I mean, he is already.
He is already, and there's a reason why Beckett Sennecke's name keeps popping up for teams who are in the top 10, but teams that need a forward. Montreal comes to mind. And when it initially came up, like they're doing their due diligence on Beckett Sennecke, some people were like, wait, what? Beckett Sennecke is going to go in like the mid to late first round. Well, that just has not materialized. And a big reason why is the elite playoff run that Beckett Sennecke had. 22 points in only 16 games. He was a big reason why Oshawa was able to have some success. He's 6'3", 182, a January birthday, and his highest ranking is Corey Pronman, his biggest fan. And Scott Wheeler actually has him at 16, which is the lowest. So the range is 7 to 16. Bob McKenzie has him at 14 on his list. And I like the comparison that the Elite Prospects Draft Guide used. It's a Senator. It's Drake Batherson. And one of the biggest comparables that they have is they love to dangle. They will attack the forward head on. They're not looking to go around you. They're not looking to chip and then chase around you. They are looking to make you be on the wrong end of a highlight reel. Every time this guy comes down on the rush, he's looking to go through the defender's triangle, sneak a shoulder through him. He's like Gumby, the way he's maneuvering his body, but he's able to do it at this level. So how translatable are those skills? What is he going to have to learn to be able to project this talent at the NHL level? That's the biggest question that scouts are going to have to decide.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question. Like I mentioned, I think once he's a little more comfortable with his new size, I think he's going to do a much better job at that. And Ross, you mentioned the comparable of shades of Drake Batherson. Another reason I like that comparable is he does a really good job using his range to break up passes, and you'll see him pickpocket guys when they're not ready for it, just because he has such a long stick, a long range. And that's what we used to love about Drake Batherson. Remember, it was kind of like Drake Batherson had shades of Mark Stone in that element, like the steal snipe Selly story. And Beckett Sennecke, when he's on his game, he can pick people's pockets, then dipsy doodle through the one defender that's back there, and then he'll find a way to score. Now, he's also a great playmaker as well. I would argue even a better playmaker than he is a shooter, but he's got a wrist shot that he's able to just skate into the offensive zone and rip it and beat a goalie clean as well. So offensively, there is a lot to like about Beckett Sennecke. I haven't really seen too many people say he's a defensive liability or it's like a red flag or anything. And obviously, plus minus not everything, but plus 33. Clearly, he's able to play a more complete game than some of these other offensively talented prospects. So I think Sennecke is a nice, well-rounded option with some upside here.
Oh, I think he's got plenty of upside. You could see him as a top 6 forward, right? He kind of fills that mold. I'd like to see him try to be a little bit more physical next season, but maybe that's a part of filling into his body and being able to dominate play. Like he dominated games. There's no question. And the OHL level, he dominated last year, especially in the second half. He kind of turned a switch at January 7th, like right after that. And from then on, he had a 5-point game in there. He had a few 3-point outings. Like there were games that he took over, but I'd like to see him do it all next year. Like come out there and show that you're going to be not only a member of the World Junior team, but a guy who's going to be relied upon to score for them and a guy who's going to be out there every first power play. His next season to me is the biggest one. And don't have that option at the NHL draft. You have to base on everything you've seen to date. But I think if we see him, there's a chance by next January in Ottawa at the World Juniors that he's 6'3", 200 pounds, and that he's turning himself from not only just an elite offensive talent, but a guy who's almost like a power forward as well. And if he's able to add that tool to his box, all of a sudden we're looking at a guy who I could see him 2 years from now when we're doing those lists of top prospects outside the NHL. I could see him being a top 10 guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that crazy, Ross. Looking over my notes, I would say the biggest issue, and we talked to Wheeler about this, and he mentions it in his write-up of Beckett Sennecke, sometimes he depends on going one-on-one and playing hero too often, and he'll get burned. Now, I just mentioned he's able to slip through defenders like water through cracks. He's able to get it done, but it's almost like that's his default is like, okay, I got the puck. There's a defenseman at the blue line. I'm going to figure out some way to get through him. And he's able to do that in the OHL. What's going to happen when he gets to the NHL and he's a one-trick pony and defenders are like, well, this is easy. I'm just not going to allow him to go through me. I'm going to play a tighter triangle and force him wide. And then when he goes wide, I know I'm going to be able to squeeze him out because he's not used to using that approach, or he's not used to using his teammates as help options for give and go or getting a pass through the neutral zone into the blue line. Like it's going to be tough when he's so used to relying on that way of entering the zone. When he goes up against 6'4" defensemen that are veteran defensemen in the NHL, and they're like, you're not putting me on the wrong side of a Sports Center top 10 highlight. Nuh-uh. And then he's going to be like, well, how else do I do this? This is what I've always done. So I think that's where he relies on that skill a little bit too much. And as defensemen get bigger, stronger, and smarter, you might have a hard time having success.
But I still think he will have success. I think if we're doing like a risk reward weighing, I think that the reward heavily outweighs the risk.
Or Ross, you just need to come to terms with, all right, he's going to struggle with that. Let's get him on a line with an elite transition player that can solve that for him most of the time. So there are
this is my guy. This is my guy who will be. Now I'm not saying he's going to be within my top 10, but if you count number 10, he's going to be there. To me, he is 10 or better on this draft class. I'm a big fan of Beckett Sennecke. What do you think for the Sens? How many stars?
So I got Beckett Sennecke at 4.5 stars, Ross. I also really like this player. I believe in the potential for him. When you see hands like that, it's really impressive. You got the size. He's going to grow into it. I think he's going to be a really good second line winger. So I like him as a player. However, if the Sens went up to the podium and selected him with 7th overall, I don't know if I'd love that. However, if they trade back a couple picks and they go with him, I could really be interested in that.
He's in my list of, I think, 11 players that if the Sens take them at number 7, I will spin zone it into them taking the best player available. That's how wide the range is for Beckett Sennecke and this draft class as a whole. Well, give me one parting thought about Beckett Sennecke, maybe what you would like to see him improve on the most next season.
Well, I'll go back to the one kind of red flag I've seen about him, and it's playing that hero game and forcing one-on-one plays. Look, nothing wrong with chipping it off the boards and dump and chase once in a while, right? Like, is that a highly successful play all the time? No, but sometimes you just got to get it in there and then use your size to win those puck battles. He's got the size. Once he gets used to it, I think he's going to become a more effective player. So Ross, what he's got to work on is get creative with how you enter the offensive zone.
Coachable, though. These are all coachable skills, and a big reason why Beckett Sennecke will not be lasting long at the NHL draft. He comes in at number 13 on our rankings with an average of 11.9. All right, on the other side, I'm just going to let everyone know it's Carter Yakemchuk, a player who many Sens fans are thinking, hey, could he be the right shot defenseman taken at number 7? That conversation's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators. It's your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at New Sponsor Alert, Ross. What's the new sponsor noise?
Woo!
Okay, I like that. I'll take a good solid woo for a new sponsor alert. And you're going to be wooing when you see this new mobile game. I want to take a moment to bring up one of our partners, the mobile game Ultimate Hockey GM. I know Sens Twitter is full of armchair GMs that think they can do it better than Steve Staios. Well, your dream just came true, and this game is most definitely for you. Manage every aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaching staff, trade players or draft picks, navigate through free agency and the draft, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As a Sens fan, you know there's no off season. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances, and that's why I think you're going to love this game, guys. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. So if you're on the subway or something, you can still get your team going. And Locked On Network listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code LOCKEDONNHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game, visit hockeygm.app, or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today.
All right, Pilsy. I want to shout out our friends at the Ultimate Hockey GM. Always appreciate the support. You can help us by helping our sponsors. You can find that at Ultimate Hockey GM. All right, Pilsy. Here we go. We're back at it. Coming in at number 12 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft rankings from the Calgary Hitmen. He may be one of the older players in the draft, but at 6'3", 202 pounds, Carter Yakemchuk is certainly making his status known ahead of the draft.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to this profile, Ross, because I feel like you and I, whether on purpose or not, we've kind of left Carter Yakemchuk off of our list when talking about defensemen at 7th overall. And I don't know about you, Ross, but I've seen a lot of Sens fans kind of clamoring like, hey, why aren't you guys even mentioning this guy at 7th overall? Big right-hand shot defenseman that puts up points and plays a physical game. There's a lot to like here about Carter Yakemchuk. And that they're certainly right. Like, I'm not going to deny that at all. When you've got a defenseman in the WHL, so arguably the more physical league in the CHL, 66 games, 30 goals, 41 assists, good for 71 points. When you've got a guy with those numbers and his size and a right shot defenseman, there's a lot of reasons to get excited, Ross. And this is one of the few times where, if you're watching on YouTube, we've always had games, goals, assists, points, plus minus. But this is one of the few times where we got to circle and talk about that sixth stat there, and that's PIMS. 120 penalty minutes for a 30 goal scoring defenseman. That's wild to me, Ross.
Oh, it's wild is an understatement. And I had to do some digging into this because I was like, what is going on? Is he just getting tossed from games? We know he's a Fort McMurray kid. This guy is going to be tough as nails. Playing for the Calgary Flames U15 team, moved to Calgary. And what we've got with Carter Yakemchuk is a guy who might be taking penalties because he gets beat around the edges. Now, the skating is not great. The skating is what's holding him back from being an easy call into the top 10. No spoilers, but in our mock draft that's coming up in just over a week, I asked Scott Wheeler, I said, if you put Zeev Buium skating on Carter Yakemchuk, how high does he go? And he didn't even hesitate. Top three. Top three. That is how good the offensive instincts are of his game. And in zone defending, he's pretty good too, because he's physical, he's mean, he's not a guy who's going to give up space in front of the net. But off the rush, I mean, it's a big Achilles heel in his game. He needs to get better. And it sounds like his strength and conditioning coach, everything is based around agility. They know where his shortcomings are. They're going to work on it. Sure, hockey sense is something that could be improved or something that's maybe holding him back a little bit overall. But like, the problem with defensemen that score a ton in junior is it's so hard to translate it. Yeah. How many defensemen are putting up over a point per game in the NHL? You need to be able to defend to be a defenseman. That should be the slogan of this episode. That is how obvious it is. So that's a problem for me with Yakemchuk, is that the defending off the rush, I just picture him playing a divisional game and just getting beat off the outside by a number of speedy wingers. And you can't have that. And then if you're going to have it, I'd rather rely on my goalie to make one save or two off a rebound than have to kill a 2-minute penalty because Yakemchuk's turned around and taken a tripping penalty trying to make up for the lack of foot speed. So if you're going to have one mistake, try not to compound it with a second. And it seems like a lack of discipline is a direct correlation to a lack of foot speed.
Yeah, and it's not only the foot speed. Ross Wheeler mentioned to us that backward skating is very tough for him.
That's pretty key for a defenseman.
Yes, and his pivots. So if you get him turned around, you're already gone on Yakemchuk here. But it's not to say that he's not good at defending, but one of the blurbs I read, I'm forgetting who it was, but they were mentioning that when he is defending, he defends hard, but he's such an offenseman, he's just puck hounding. And when you're a top defenseman on a top pair, you got to have a little more defensive awareness than chasing a guy behind the net because he has the puck, because now you've just left your other guy exposed, right? So there's these little things where you're like, he's working hard out there, but he doesn't have the mobility and the defensive awareness to put it all together. Now, it's funny that we're doing Sennecke and Yakemchuk together, Ross, because you could almost put them side by side, and the way they enter the zone is the exact same. They got the puck, and they're going to slip through you somehow, some way, and he's so damn good at it. Like, EP awarded him second best offensive defenseman, clearly, and he's able to be so creative. Like, David St. Louis did an article, a film article on Yakemchuk, and the title was Yakemchuk Dangles Through Everybody. And then he just showed clip after clip after clip after clip of him doing it. So there is zero question or zero reserve about his offensive capabilities, the creativity, the hands. But if you're the Ottawa Senators, and this is why I think you and I have kind of quietly omitted him from our discussions of defensemen at 7th overall. If you're going to take a swing on a guy at 7th overall, you don't want him to have that many holes in his game or that many things that you're really going to have to zero in and work on him with, because there's other options. Like if you want an offenseman, Zane Parekh is a step ahead of where Yakemchuk is, with much better skating and a little bit more rounded of a game. Now, he doesn't have the size Yakemchuk has. He certainly can't play physical like Yakemchuk does. Like, this guy's laying guys out, open ice hits. It's awesome.
And he's mean.
And yeah, that's the thing. Like, he's not hitting to finish his check. He's hitting so you go back to the bench and you call the trainer over and be like, my shoulder's feeling a little funny here.
Like he's got a bit of Tyler Kleven in him from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's probably the only
right. That's where the comparison ends for sure.
Yes,
very different, but they do have that in common. Where when they go out, they're not looking to just put a little bump on you; they're looking to bruise.
Yeah, and I think that's why the rankings for Yakemchuk are so interesting, because most people got him 10, 11, 12. That's kind of where it makes sense, which is why we haven't really had him in our list of discussions. But then you look at a guy like Pronman that clearly sees the skills and is like, the size and a right shot defenseman with this offensive ability and this physicality, just touch up the defense and the skating, and you've got the makings of a first pair defenseman if you believe he can do that. So certainly a very interesting prospect, but I just think he's going to go to one of those middle teen teams that are like, look, we're going to take a swing here. And I don't believe, just because of all the other potential defensemen the Ottawa Senators could have at 7th, depending on who's picked, there's going to be guys left. I don't think he's in that tier with your Levshunovs, your Buyams, your Pareks, your Dickinsons, and your Vasilyevs, right? Like, those 5 guys are in a similar tier. And I think Yakemchuk is on the outside looking in, but he's the first guy on the outside looking in. Of that, I'm quite certain.
Yeah, it's awesome to see how these guys it will be fascinating, I should say, to see how these guys actually go in order at the draft. And I'm circling the San Jose Sharks at 14 as the latest that he'll go. We talked about they just have so much offensive potential that it would be good to get a defenseman into the organization, whether it's a Yakemchuk or someone else. Pilsy, he's a guy who's probably going to be around 12 or 13 on my list. So there's guys who I like more, but I could talk myself in. If the Senators did their due diligence, they feel they can work with him. He certainly has the tools. And Corey Pronman, who has him third. Corey Pronman has him third on his list, says that he has star potential and projects to be a major minutes player in the NHL with a lot of offensive upside. How many stars do you have for Carter Yakemchuk?
I just want to get one scout quote in here, Ross, before I start the stars, because I think this was very telling. One scout said, I'd rather play against him than have him on my team. So that's where you can see, like, scouts are looking at him and seeing the upside, but they're also seeing the holes in his game. And they're like, I would love to have my top forwards just carve through him, rather than take the risk on the skill that he has on my own team. So I thought that was the one scout's quote that really stood out to me. I got him at 4 stars here, Ross. I see the potential. I get why Corey Pronman would fall in love with a guy like this. I get why a team would be stoked to select him if those other defensemen are not available. And I don't think we're going to see a scenario where the Sens picking 7th overall, 5 of the first 6 picks are going to be defensemen, and they don't have a choice but to go this route if they want a D-man. So for that reason, unless the Sens are trading back, I think there are better options.
Carter Yakemchuk comes in 12th on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings with an average rank of 10.9. For more draft profiles, make sure to subscribe and check us out on YouTube. All right, Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is it's so awesome piecing together our mock draft, Ross. We've done what? It'll be 3.5 hours worth of recording for the mock draft today between 3 different scouts. So I'm so excited to piece this all together for you, and get your popcorn. It's going to be another absolute beautiful mock draft performance from us here.
It certainly will. And game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals goes tonight in Edmonton, and the Florida Panthers are only 2 wins away from improving the Senators draft pick from the Vladimir Tarasenko trade from a 4th to a 3rd rounder. Now, they would lose a pick this year. They'd have to wait 2 more years, but they get a 3rd round pick. So those are all things to keep in mind if you're a Sens fan watching the Stanley Cup Final. All right, that's it for us today. Thanks so much for watching, listening, subscribing to the show. It means a lot for Brandon Piller and myself, Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.